Alright, so everything I'm about to tell you, second year students once told me when I started my RC year. And I heard them, I really did. But I guess I didn't really listen or understand or internalize the nuance or the magnitude of what they were trying to tell me. And now I'm about to become that second year student, and I will try to tell you the same advice they told me. I talked about in an earlier video about the 4 priorities at HBS. There's scholarship, relationships, leadership, and entrepreneurship. I said pick 2 to be great at and 1 to be average, and then forget the last one. Career and sleep aren't on the list, but that's because they are default priorities. Although I bet some of my section mates would respectfully disagree with me about the sleep one. Anyway, after a full year, here's what I learned about how those priorities actually evolve. When you walk in first semester, everything feels urgent. You're trying to crack the cases, make friends, join clubs, maybe run for section leadership, and figure out what you want to recruit for, all at the same time. Most people over-index on scholarship and relationships because the academic learning curve is so steep and social pressure is very intense. But when you get to second semester, things shift. Classes feel a little bit more chill, not because they're necessarily easier, but because you know how the classroom works, and more importantly, you trust the social contract your section has. Also, people only lead if they genuinely want to lead, not because they feel like they have to in order to get a job. To be honest, most leadership positions don't end up on the resume or on LinkedIn. People literally do it just for fun or because they need something to do. For me personally, scholarship was deprioritized second semester, even though I still made it a point to read every single case. My leadership role for a club conference wrapped up, so leadership got axed too. So I prioritized relationships, and I spent a lot of time building this YouTube channel, which, sorry if you're sick of watching recycled film, I try to give fresh thoughts, but it's so hard to come up with new footage because at the end of the day, I'm a full-time student after all. Either way, it's hard to know if you picked the right 2 priorities. You just have to take a leap and act with conviction. The worst thing is trying to do all 4 at once and simultaneously doing none of them well at all. Next, I want to talk a little bit more about relationships and networking at Harvard Business School. At the VCPE conference dinner, one of the keynote speakers said something that stuck with me. Your peers are the ones who will advocate for you and source jobs for you, not the senior people, so stop sucking up to partners and managing directors. Invest your time in getting to know the people around you. And after a year, I've seen this to be completely true because I will tell my friends about amazing opportunities they're totally qualified for, and I will make the warm intro happily without any reservation for them to get that opportunity. My peers, they do the same for me. And that's how the HBS network actually works. Not through cold LinkedIn messages to senior alumni, but through genuine relationships with the people sitting next to you in class. My HBS class is literally 1,000 of the most qualified, ambitious people always looking for and being presented opportunities and jobs. And when they get an opportunity that's not necessarily the right fit for them at that time, and they want to help by trying to find a qualified person to do the job, so I bet you can't guess which group chat that opportunity lands in. That's right, it lands in our HBS class group chat. This is literally peers sourcing for peers. So now let's talk about networking being social and how to allocate your social energy. Because let's be real, as an introvert, I spend just as much time on energy allocation and planning compared to actually giving my energy to other people. And this matters because you will also be quadruple booked. And you don't have to be at all 4 things. Most talks and events are not going to change your life. The average quality is fine. So just be selective. The default answer to any invitation should be no, and you should have the agency to choose what you say yes to. People think a healthy social life at HBS means being in the in group. My husband quoted a book to me the other day, and that kind of changed how I thought about this. He said that people think relationships are like onions, You want to be in the next inner layer. And when you get there, you realize there's another layer. So you keep going, peeling back, trying to get to the innermost layer. And when you finally get there, there's nothing. So what makes you feel like you're in the in-group and what gets perceived as being an in-group is actually just genuine, authentic relationships. Not exclusive access, not being in the cool circle, just real connection with real people. You can have that with 3 people or 30 people. The structure really doesn't matter. It's the authenticity that does. And here's something I learned this year through my own experience talking to section mates and observing others. It's okay to not have a friend group. Not everybody needs to find their squad by October. Some of the best relationships I built happened slowly, through repeated small interactions, cooking for people, double dates, spontaneous dinner outings, random walks, rooming together during field. It didn't always look like a friend group. It looked like living life together, which, if you're watching this, you probably already had a similar experience in undergrad, but it's different because the people here are in different stages of life. But the benefit of being part of one of the largest MBA programs in the world is that your people are definitely here. You just gotta find them. Now I have a few comments on case prep and preparation. Yes, it will be very hard to get your voice in the classroom at first. You will raise your hand 30 times and only get called on once. You will feel invisible. You will feel frustrated. Everyone feels this way. Yes, even the person who has helium hand syndrome and was just called on and had a 3-minute non-topical monologue. Just know that you are doing just fine. Of course, everybody at HBS thinks the same, and everybody wants to front load their effort and participation, thinking that it will bulletproof their grade. And it does work in a mathematical sense, but it is very hard and very stressful to accomplish this. And if you're not doing fine, it's the professor's job to fix that. Every class has a scribe who takes down notes about who said what, so they collect data on the professor's calling patterns, and the professors review this information and will adjust their calling pattern. And to be honest, after an 80-minute class, nobody remembers what anybody else said unless it was completely unhinged or an expert opinion. So just relax. No one thinks you're dumb. By the end of the first semester, I promise, it gets easier. People start focusing on other things. They naturally deprioritize prepping for class, and when 93 hands don't go up at every single opportunity, there is more room for your voice. So don't fret. In fact, you can save yourself a lot of stress and potentially a breakdown by not fretting about this. And if you do find yourself fretting, send the professor an email saying that you've been prepared and engaged and want to contribute to the discussion. Professors will get you into the next discussion if you are truly lagging behind the average amount of participation. I think another interesting thing is that everybody fears the cold call at the beginning of the year, but by the end of the year, we want to be cold called because it's so much less effort than raising our hands. So that's the advice every EC tells every RC, and of course, no RC listens. I didn't listen either, so I know you probably won't either because the first 2 months are literally the craziest months you'll ever experience. But I said it anyway, and now it's memorialized on the internet. Another discovery I had pretty late, probably much later than my peers, is that I realized it's okay to give half-baked comments. I lowered the bar for when I would raise my hand, and it turned out okay. You don't need a perfectly formed argument to participate. Sometimes the most useful contribution is an honest observation connecting 2 dots or asking a question that nobody else was brave enough to ask. Oh, and one more thing, do not use your favorite LLM as your sole preparation method. The professors run the cases through ChatGPT too, so they know what the students who used AI will say. If your comment sounds like it came from a language model, the professor already anticipated it, and your comment won't make a dent in the conversation. The comments that land are the ones that come from your own thinking, your own experience, and your own perspective. That's what the case method rewards. And honestly, your own learning and the honest, thorough preparation from your section mates are what you are paying $250,000 to have. Now, let's briefly talk about recruiting. I am in the process of making a whole 10-video recruiting series on this channel, so I'm going to keep this section focused on mindset rather than logistics. However, if you do want to hear the inside scoop of how recruiting is actually like inside of HBS, subscribe so you don't miss it. I plan to cover everything from the tea of MBB recruiting to the struggles the international students face to the ugly side of entrepreneurship at HBS. Anyway, the first thing about recruiting is do not panic. Everyone gets an internship that they never thought they could get, the dream job they did not think they were qualified for, the thing that will make them so happy and excited they know it's a match in their gut. And I know it doesn't feel that way in December when it seems like the only jobs available are consulting and banking, but I promise it all works out. I've watched it happen across my entire section, amongst my friends, and even if it takes until the second week of June, everyone pretty much gets exactly what they want. And I think that's kind of a crazy miracle. If you ask anyone, including me, every EC will say that they worked really hard sending cold messages and doing a bajillion coffee chats and spending hours upon hours on interview prep. But they will also tell you that they got incredibly lucky. And yes, every EC and all the faculty tells all the RC this and no RC listens because we cannot hear through our imposter syndrome. Well, for most, and ego for everybody else. The second piece of advice is similar to the advice I said in my application tips series. You need to act with conviction. Say no to an unexciting but well-paying job even if you don't have anything lined up. Wait for the right job in the right location because you have family responsibilities. Really, the worst outcome of any recruiting effort is not getting the offer. It's accepting the wrong one out of fear. Our professors and the career department worry about this more than anything. They worry that you will settle too early and choose a job out of fear rather than love. And lastly, don't wait to be reached out to. Just because you're at HBS doesn't mean opportunities are handed to you on a silver platter. In fact, because we are HBS, there are 1,000 of us competing for similar jobs, and the HBS pedigree is actually not a differentiating factor. So you still need to put in the work to be the memorable one. This is one of my biggest weaknesses as an introvert, and I should have exercised this muscle more. So just reach out. Nobody cares if you're the one initiating. Now, the next thing I want to say, I know I've said this throughout my channel, but again, the most important thing to protect at HBS is your reputation, and the only person who can protect it is you. And lastly, my number one tip for staying sane at HBS has nothing to do with academics or recruiting. It is to prioritize non-HBS people. For me, that's my husband and my family and my friends back home. When you talk to people outside the HBS bubble, you see that all of this stuff matters very little in the grand scheme of things. These are really all just champagne problems. The recruiting anxiety, the participation stress, the social dynamics, none of it is life or death. Honestly, it's all a made-up game. Plus, calling or talking to your people outside the HBS bubble also gives you a chance to give back. You can give advice, share perspectives, make connections for them, and help them with something like editing a resume. And oftentimes, these acts of service are far more impactful than the equivalent act at HBS, because the people outside the MBA student bubble just don't have the time to source all the opportunities, resources, or gain perspective that we have the privilege of paying for. So that grounding effect, the reminder that you are more than just your HBS identity, is what keeps you from losing perspective. Or it's at least what kept me from spiraling during my worst weeks. And I'm pretty sure it'll help keep you sane as well. So yeah, that's my guide for RC year. But to be honest, I think it's not just a playbook for Harvard Business School. I think all these things can be applied everywhere. At work, in friendships, in volunteering organizations, etc. So remember to prioritize relationships over credentials, invest in your peers, not just focus on the senior people, lower the bar for participation because perfect should not be the enemy of good. Don't panic over recruiting. Protect your reputation. Stay grounded by staying in touch with the people who knew you before HBS. So with this video, I'm wrapping up my reflections of RC year. If you're starting at HBS soon, congratulations and welcome. It's going to be the hardest, most rewarding, most fun year of your life, And just know all of the ECs and alumni are jealous that you get to have this fresh experience. And if you've been following along on this channel, consider liking and subscribing because there is so much more to come. Until next time, bye guys!